Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I wasn't hungry, not really, but Aaron was pushing food across the table, trying to make this dinner feel like a normal, casual conversation. Like we hadn't just had the world dropped on our heads a few hours ago. I watched her scoop mashed potatoes onto my plate, the soft sound of the spoon scraping the ceramic, the weight of the air between us. She caught my eye, still acting like nothing was wrong, as if we weren't standing on the edge of a cliff. "So, I guess we need to talk about some details," she said, the words coming out like she was going over a grocery list. No emotion, no hesitation. "Details?" I echoed. My voice sounded strange, like I wasn't really in my body. She picked up a glass of water, took a sip, and set it down with a deliberate slowness. "Yeah, you're gonna keep paying for the house, the mortgage, the insurance, the utilities. You know, all the boring stuff, the kind of thing you're good at." The words stung, but I held my breath. I wasn't ready to break down in front of her, not yet. "Wait a minute," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "So you're not even going to pretend like this is, like you're still my wife?" Erin looked at me as if she hadn't heard the question. She fiddled with the napkin on her lap, avoiding my eyes. "I'm not going to be with you that way anymore. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to let you off the hook. We're still in this partnership, right?" She said the word like it was something easy, something businesslike. Like we were both just doing what had to be done. The weight of the reality of it crashed down on me. Kyle gets the wife, but I get to keep paying for everything while she plays cowgirl. I had to clench my fists under the table. "You think Kyle's going to take care of all that?" I couldn't stop myself from saying it. My voice was low, but it wasn't kind. "He's broke, Aaron. Rides don't pay much." "I know that." A faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips, but it wasn't anything close to happy. It was a little too sharp. "Kyle might not have much, but he makes me feel alive, if you know what I mean." I was about to reply, but she raised her hand, cutting me off before I could get a word out. "I'm just being honest," she said, almost too brightly. "I can't be with someone who's just a paycheck. I need more than that, more than what you give me." Her words hit like a slap. I didn't know what to say at first, so I just stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. It wasn't just the mortgage. It wasn't just the house. She had made her choice, and I was just a damn paycheck to her. "I'm sorry, but this is just how it is now," she continued, her tone casual like we were discussing dinner plans. "Kyle's for fun. You're for stability. You've got the steady job, the house. He's got the excitement. I can't live without both." She actually laughed, as though we were in some sitcom, not a nightmare. "I know it might seem weird at first, but you'll get used to it, like everyone does." I sat there for a second, processing her words, the bitterness rising in my chest. I didn't even notice how my hands were trembling until I tried to steady the fork in my hand. I swallowed hard. "Is that it then? You're just going to leave me here like a damn fool, and you expect me to keep paying for your comfortable lifestyle?" The smile on her face didn't falter. "Well, you'll still be able to see the kids. I'll make sure of that. But this," she waved her hand between us, "this part is over." "Yeah, you're real nice, Aaron," I spat out, standing up so fast the chair screeched against the floor. "Nice enough to tell me I'm good for stability, but can't even be bothered to look me in the eye when you're doing this shit." She didn't flinch. She didn't even seem to care. "You'll be fine. You always are." She paused, just for a second, like she was trying to pull herself together. "And look, I'm sorry. I know this is hard for you, but I'm not going back." She looked at me with that same confidence that made my blood boil. She thought I'd just sit here and take it, just like my father had. I shook my head, the pieces falling into place, her and Kyle. It wasn't about love, not anymore. This was about convenience, about keeping things neat and easy for her. But it was also about control. She'd left me with nothing but the pieces to pick up. Erin just looked at me, her gaze cold now. "I know you'll adjust. You always do. Just make sure the bills are paid on time and we won't have any issues." I couldn't look at her anymore. I grabbed my jacket off the chair and turned away without another word. Her voice floated over my shoulder as I headed for the door. "I'm not saying I don't appreciate everything you've done for us, but you'll be fine." I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing in the empty house. The shock had worn off, and all I felt now was the slow, bitter burn of betrayal. The wrench in my gut was still there, twisting harder with every step I took away from her. This was it. I was done. But I still had to finish paying her price. I picked up the phone as soon as I got to the truck, the engine rumbling under me as I started the drive home. Marla. Of course. I didn't even think twice before dialing her number. She picked up on the second ring. Ethan? What's going on? Where's Erin? I didn't beat around the bush. She's moving in with Kyle. I need to talk to you. What? She exclaimed. She told you this already? Yeah, I muttered, trying to keep my voice even. It's done, but you're part of this mess too, and I want to hear what you think. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, slow, measured, like she was considering her next move. You always were the reasonable one, she said finally, but I'll tell you, it's tough to swallow. I didn't think it would come to this. Well, it has, I said, tightening my grip on the wheel. You and Erin are in this together, aren't you? You've always had some say in what goes on in her life. What? Her tone shifted, now defensive. No, Look, I don't have anything against you, but Erin's a grown woman, Ethan. A strong woman. She's taking charge of her life. And as for you, you need to do what you're good at. Keep your head down. You're the provider, right? My jaw clenched. What does that mean? You're telling me to stay in my lane? I'm not telling you anything, Marla said sharply. I'm just saying Erin needs someone who can live a little, not someone who's always stuck with his nose in the ground, worrying about the bills. So Kyle's the answer now? I bit back the anger. What about stability? What about everything I've done for her and the kids? You're okay with that? I didn't say that, Marla responded, her voice lowering. But you can't just give up control over everything. A man's role is to provide. She's got her fun with Kyle, and she's still got you to lean on for the boring stuff. It's better that way, for everyone. I squeezed the phone in my hand, my knuckles white. So, I'm just here for the bills, for the house, for the kids' future. That's it. That's the way it's always been, she said, almost pitying me now. And you'll be rewarded for it. But Erin, she needs more than what you've been able to give her. You don't get it, Ethan. This is the way it is. I sat there for a long second, my mind racing. The weight of what she was saying, it wasn't just what Erin had told me earlier. It was what Marla was reinforcing. I'd spent years thinking I was doing right by everyone, and it didn't matter. In their eyes, I was just the provider, the one who paid for everything, and that was my role. You know, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm, I think it's funny you call it the way it is. Funny how it's always been the way you wanted it, hasn't it? You've just always had your finger on the pulse of everything, haven't you? Always controlled the narrative. Marla let out a soft laugh. I know you're upset, Ethan, but you have to see it from her side. She's doing what she feels is best for her. And if you don't fall in line, well, that's your choice, but don't expect her to just change her mind. I bit my lip to keep from saying more. I needed to let her talk. You're her mom, Marla. You should want better for her. I do want the best for her, she said sharply. But sometimes a woman has to keep the upper hand. Erin knows what she's doing. She's just setting things up for what's next. And you just need to play your part. Her words were still ringing in my head as I pulled into the driveway. I felt like the life had been sucked out of me. Play my part. That's all I was to them. A tool. So, what now? I asked, voice quiet. What's the end game here? You want me to stay in the background, foot the bill while Erin runs off with Kyle? Marla sighed, like she was being asked to explain something to a child. You know how it is. We all play our parts. Erin's taking control. You'll keep the house, you'll keep the kids, you'll have everything set up. And in the end, everyone wins. I wanted to scream. Instead, I hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, numb, not sure what to think. Marla hadn't even hesitated. It was like everything had already been decided, and I was the one left in the dust. What Erin had done, what Marla had said, it was all a game to them, and I was just some pawn in it. I pulled myself together and went inside, but I knew things were never going to be the same. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd roll over like my father did, but I wasn't him. I had a plan now, and I'd make sure they knew exactly what that meant. The phone call with Marla was exactly what I expected. She was a damn cheerleader for Erin's plan, fully behind her daughter's decision to tear everything down and rebuild it without me in the picture. She talked about a woman's right to take control and how I just had to play my part if I wanted to keep things smooth for the kids. That part hit me the hardest. Smooth for the kids? This wasn't about them. This was about Aaron and Marla keeping the upper hand. I was done. I didn't want to hear any more, but I needed to act fast. I needed to be ahead of this. I called Randy first. He answered on the second ring, his voice gravelly like he'd just woken up. "Randy, I need you, man. You in?" "Hell yeah, what's going on?" I ran down the basics. No sugarcoating, no small talk. "Aaron's gone off the deep end with some rodeo jackass, and I need to get the kids out of town. I need backup." There was a pause on the other end, then Randy's usual dry laugh. "You sure you want to go this far, brother? It's done. I'm going full throttle." "You got it. What do you need?" "I need eyes on Aaron, Kyle, and Marla. I need to know where they're at, when they're at it. I'll send you a location in a bit, and keep it quiet." "I'm in. I'll call Luis. He'll know what to do." That was all I needed. Luis was a damn genius with anything mechanical, but more importantly, he could rig up electronics like nobody's business. If I needed a surveillance setup, he was the guy to talk to. I hung up, sending a text to him with the same information. A few minutes later, he responded, "On it." Dean was next. I'd run dirt track races with him back in the day, and he'd done more than his share of shady work for me. A reliable guy to have around. He ran a trucking business and had access to routes, connections, and even a private RV we could use as a cover. "Dean," I said when he picked up, "I need that RV, and I need it tonight. Think you can get it?" "You're asking me, aren't you?" Dean chuckled, his voice gruff. "I got you covered. I'll park it in the usual spot. Send me the details." "Appreciate it." I hung up and stared at the phone for a moment. I was doing it. I was getting the hell out, taking my kids, and making sure Aaron and Marla couldn't touch us. They thought I was just the provider, a paycheck. They didn't know who they were really dealing with. I texted Randy the location of Aaron's place and gave him the green light. He'd start watching her, making sure she didn't get any funny ideas about running off with Kyle or trying to get ahead of me. My phone buzzed with a message from Luis. It was simple. All set. The plan was set in motion. No going back now. By 9 p.m., everything was in place. I called Marla, pretending I was still in this with her, pretending I was playing nice. I told her that Aaron and I needed to talk things through, and asked if she could keep the kids overnight. She was so eager to help, she didn't hesitate. "They'll be fine here, Ethan. I'll take care of them," she said, sounding almost too sweet. It made me sick, but I needed her to believe it. I needed to keep her calm while everything else went down. I parked down the street from her house, my heart thumping in my chest. I sent a text to Randy and Luis. Go time. The plan was simple. I was going to let Marla think she was helping me by keeping the kids while Aaron and I had our talk. Meanwhile, Randy and Luis were going in through the back. They knew the drill. No noise, no mess, just get the job done. At 9:15 p.m., I got the confirmation from Randy. All clear, kids are asleep. I signaled to Randy and Luis, and they moved in quietly. By the time I got out of the truck and walked up to the front door, everything was set. I rang the doorbell, knowing full well Marla was inside, clueless. When she opened the door, I forced a smile. "Thanks for helping out tonight, Marla." She didn't question me, which made it easier. "Of course, Ethan. Anything for you." I walked inside, feeling the tension in the air. The house was too quiet. Marla and her husband Don were sitting at the kitchen table, looking comfortable, unaware of what was about to happen. But I knew. The moment I entered the room, I saw their faces stiffen. They knew something was up, but they didn't know what. They didn't have time to think about it. I locked eyes with Marla and then with Don, his eyes darting nervously from his wife to me. "What's this about, Ethan?" Don finally asked, his voice shaking slightly. I walked toward them, calm as could be. "You and Marla are about to find out how far I'll go to protect my kids. You'll never see them again, Marla." Her eyes widened. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You can't do that. You don't—" I cut her off. "You don't get to make the decisions anymore. You've been pushing this whole thing, acting like it's just a game, but it's not. I'm done." I turned to Don, who was sitting there, like he didn't have a clue what was happening. He just stared at the floor, not meeting my eyes. Marla tried to speak, her voice frantic. "You can't just take them from us, Ethan. They're our grandchildren. You think you can get away with this?" I gave her a cold smile. "I already have, and I'll make sure you can't touch them. I emptied your savings, drained that rainy day account you set up with Aaron, maxed out your cards." I paused, letting the words sink in. "You're broke, Marla. I've made sure of it." Her face went pale, her hands trembling slightly. You can't do this." "I already have," I said. "Aaron's not going to keep the house without my income. You all will end up living under the same roof. You'll have nothing. And don't bother wasting money on trying to find us. We won't be in the US under our real names." I turned to leave, making sure they understood. "I'm done here. Don't try to follow." As I walked out, I felt a strange kind of relief, knowing the wheels were in motion. Aaron and Marla thought they had everything figured out. They were wrong. The house felt empty as I walked in, but not in the way you'd expect. Aaron and I had spent years making it feel like a home, with the kids running through the halls, their laughter bouncing off the walls. Now, it was just a place, one that would soon feel more like a memory than anything else. I knew Marla would agree to keep the kids overnight. It fit into her little plan. She'd act like the doting grandmother, thinking she was helping cement Aaron's decision, when all along she was just playing into my hands. She thought she was controlling the situation, but I had a surprise waiting for her. The kids were already in bed by the time I parked a few blocks away, so the timing was perfect. I signaled to Randy and Luis, who were stationed nearby in their own vehicles, parked a few houses down in the shadows. I told them to stay quiet, stay unseen. They knew the drill. I dialed Randy's number. "Go." He didn't answer, didn't need to. I knew he was already on the move. I waited in the truck for what felt like an eternity, but it was only 10 minutes. My phone buzzed. Randy had sent a quick message. "All clear. Kids are asleep." I grabbed the duffel bag off the passenger seat, a few essentials packed inside, and stepped out. The night was thick with stillness, the kind of silence that makes your pulse louder than it should be. I moved up to the front door and knocked, just loud enough to be heard, but not so much it would draw attention. Marla opened the door, her usual smile plastered on her face. "Ethan, I'm so glad you're here. The kids are already settled in. You go talk things over with Aaron. You deserve it." Her words felt so fake I almost laughed, but I held it in. "Thanks for doing this, Marla," I said, keeping my tone neutral. She stepped aside, letting me in, and I did my best to look like I was just a guy getting ready for a tough conversation. But inside, I was already 10 steps ahead. I glanced over at Don, who was sitting at the kitchen table, staring into a mug of coffee. He didn't say anything, didn't look like he wanted to. "You guys sure about this?" I asked, letting the tension build. Marla didn't even blink. "Of course, Ethan. You just need to work things out with Aaron." I nodded. "Right, but things are going to change after tonight." I could see Marla's expression twitch, just a little, but I didn't care. I had already set everything in motion, and there was no turning back now. I pulled out a few pre-written papers from the duffel bag, the ones I'd made sure to draft earlier that day. Marla's face paled slightly as she saw what was on the table, but she didn't say a word. Instead, she tried to mask it with a smile. "You've got all the paperwork in order, huh?" "More than you think," I said, still calm. "You're going to want to read this, Marla, both of you." I handed them each a set of papers. The weight of what was on those pages settled on them, the same way it had on me when I'd drawn up the terms of what was to come. Don didn't even try to read it. He just stared blankly, not willing to meet my eyes. But Marla? She didn't even look at the papers, just glanced up at me with that smile still stuck to her face. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice rising just slightly. "This isn't necessary. We're family." "Family?" I scoffed. "You don't get it, do you? I've been family. I've played family. For you, for Aaron, for everyone. But not anymore." Marla's face twisted, the smile dropping. "You're going to ruin everything, Ethan. Think about the kids. They need us." "The kids are coming with me," I said, my voice flat, no room for argument. "And they won't be seeing you again. Not the way you've treated me or them." Her hands shook as she picked up the papers, scanning the pages quickly. Her face went from angry to pale as she read the terms. All assets, all accounts emptied, frozen, and their access cut off. It was a complete wipeout. She dropped the papers on the table, a bit too hard. "You can't do this? You're going too far." "Far?" I gave a small laugh. "You think this is far? The farthest I'm going is taking my kids somewhere safe. You and Aaron played a game. Now you get to see what it feels like to lose it all." She leaned back in her chair, hands gripping the arms like she was trying to steady herself. Don didn't even move, his face still blank, like he knew what was coming, but had no clue how to stop it. I stood up. "I've already emptied your accounts, Marla. Cashed out everything you and Aaron set aside for a rainy day. You're broke now. I've taken care of that." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She just stared at me, helpless. Don, as usual, stayed quiet, only his eyes flickering between Marla and me. "The house is next," I added. "Erin won't be able to keep it without me. She's going to lose everything. She might not know it yet, but she will." I didn't give her a chance to speak. I walked to the door, glancing back. "You've done enough damage, Marla, and trust me, don't bother looking for me. We'll be gone long before you can find us." I stepped outside into the cold night air, leaving them behind. The next steps were in motion. Everything was falling into place. And as I headed back to the truck, I didn't look back. I wasn't just taking the kids away, I was taking control of my life back. I didn't give them time to react. Marla's face was still pale, her fingers trembling on the table as she stared at the documents I'd just handed her. Don didn't say anything. I could feel his eyes boring into me, but he wasn't going to say a damn word. I could tell by their silence that they knew exactly what was coming, and they didn't want to admit it. I crossed my arms, leaning back against the doorframe. "Here's the thing, Marla. You pushed this. You pushed Erin into this. You thought I wouldn't do anything about it, but now you'll see what happens when you forget who you're dealing with." Marla opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand. "Number, don't say anything. You'll only make it worse. You're done. The money, gone, all of it. I already emptied your savings, cashed out that little rainy day account you set up with Erin, and maxed out every card you and she had. Don't bother calling the bank, because I've already frozen everything. You're broke now. You won't see a penny more." I watched her jaw tighten, her eyes flashing with anger, but I didn't care. "You think you're entitled to more? This is the consequence of pushing me like you did. And now?" I took a slow breath, enjoying the satisfaction of watching her squirm. "Erin won't be able to keep the house without me. You're all going to end up under the same roof. You'll be relying on each other now, not me." Marla's face went even paler, her breath shallow. She couldn't get the words out, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "Don't even think about chasing me down," I continued, my voice low, steady. "I'm already one step ahead of you. We're going to be gone, and I don't plan on being found. Don't waste your money, because we won't be in the U.S. under our real names." I stood up, letting the weight of my words settle in. "This is it. The game's over." Marla finally opened her mouth to say something, but it was too late. I didn't need to hear it. I turned toward the door, knowing I had made my point. I didn't have to justify it anymore. As I stepped out of the house, I pulled my phone from my pocket. I dialed Dean's number. "Everything set?" I asked. "Yeah. Everything's locked down tight. You can go." I didn't reply, just hung up the phone and got into the truck. I wasn't sure how I felt. I was still numb, but the anger had cooled. I was doing this for the right reasons. I had to protect my kids, even if it meant destroying everything that had once been my life. I drove away from Marla's house. The night settling around me. Everything was about to change. It was the beginning of something new, something better for the girls. By the time I pulled into the warehouse where Dean had hidden the RV, it was nearly midnight. The place was dark, quiet. The engine hummed as I parked. I could see the lights from a few cars down the street. The shadow of Randy's truck parked in the distance. The RV was just as I remembered it. No frills, but it would get us where we needed to go. I climbed out of the truck and looked around one last time. No one would find us here. I texted Luis to let him know we were good to go. He'd switched the plates on the truck, parked it miles away as a decoy. We were covered. I stepped inside the RV, the faint smell of oil and old leather hitting me as the door creaked open. The girls were already in their seats, half asleep but still excited. I smiled at them, trying to reassure them, even though I was lying to myself. "We're going on a trip, girls," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. Liza rubbed her eyes. "A trip? Where?" "Somewhere warm," I said, keeping it simple. "Where you can swim all year round." "Really?" Max said, her voice half drowsy. "When do we get there?" "Soon. Just rest now. We'll be there before you know it." I heard the hum of the engine as Dean and Luis did their final checks. The sound of the bay door rolling shut echoed through the quiet. We were on our way. We drove straight through the night, the road stretching ahead of us like a promise. I kept my eyes focused on the road, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than I realized. Every mile we put between us and the life I was leaving behind felt like a weight lifting off my chest. The kids slept most of the way, their soft breaths filling the silence. I glanced in the rearview mirror, watching the taillights of the trucks behind us. Everything was set. We had a few hours before the sun came up, before anyone would notice we were gone. We were going to disappear. The thought kept swirling in my mind, calming me, pushing me forward. The girls would be safe, and that was all that mattered. We were free, and nothing was going to take that away. I woke the girls gently, shaking them awake in their beds. They stirred, half dazed, not understanding what was happening. But I knew. This wasn't just a regular trip. This was escape. "Come on, girls, we're going on a trip," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though I could feel my pulse quickening. Liza rubbed her eyes and yawned. "A trip? Where are we going, Dad?" I smiled, a thin, forced thing. "Somewhere warm, somewhere you can swim year-round." Max, barely awake, managed to mumble, "That sounds awesome." I quickly packed the last of the essentials, clothes, some snacks, and whatever I could grab in a hurry. I didn't have much time. Dean's RV was waiting for us at the trucking depot. It was our new home, at least for the foreseeable future. The girls were still rubbing their eyes when we got into the RV. The space inside was small but cozy, a little too cozy for what we were about to do, but that didn't matter now. The door closed with a soft hiss, and I started the engine, feeling the weight of what I was doing. We drove through the night, the road dark and silent, the only light coming from the headlights cutting through the black. I didn't look back. There was nothing left for me back there. By the time we reached the depot, it was almost 4 a.m. Dean's place was a few miles out of town, far enough from the usual traffic. The RV was hidden in a bay, tucked away behind some industrial equipment. Luis had already done his part. He'd switched the plates on my truck and parked it miles away as a decoy. I pulled into the bay and parked the RV, signaling for the girls to stay inside. The door slid closed behind us with a low hum. It was just a matter of time now. Luis was already at the rear, checking the locks, making sure everything was set for the road. Randy would be our eyes from a distance, keeping track of any movements that might lead back to us. We couldn't risk being followed, not now. The girls were both half asleep, their excitement fading as they felt the weight of the journey starting to sink in. I smiled at them, trying to make this feel like an adventure. "We'll get some breakfast soon. How about pancakes?" I said, though I knew we'd have to figure out where we were going first. Max's eyes fluttered open. "Pancakes sound good." "We're going to have all the pancakes you want," I told her, trying to sound normal. Luis gave me a quick thumbs up from the back, confirming everything was locked down. I took a deep breath and started the engine again. The RV rumbled to life, and we eased out of the bay, heading toward the open road. I didn't know exactly where we'd end up, but I knew we couldn't go back. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. As we pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The lights of the depot faded behind us, swallowed by the darkness of the night. We weren't just leaving the town, we were leaving everything. And no one, not Aaron, not Marla, would be able to find us. We had a plan, but no one else needed to know that. We were free now, and nothing was going to take that away. It was just after noon when I heard the first ring of my phone. Aaron's number. I didn't pick up. It rang again and again. Then came a text. "Where are you?" I glanced at the screen, my thumb hovering over the response. I knew what I should say. But this wasn't a conversation anymore. I was done talking. Aaron wasn't going to understand. No matter how many times I tried to explain, no matter how many apologies she made, she'd always be the same. She'd be the woman who tore our family apart for the fun of it. And now I was the one making sure the girls would be safe. I tossed the phone onto the seat beside me, shaking my head, but the buzzing didn't stop. Then I heard it, the sound of tires on gravel in the distance. My eyes narrowed. She was already out there looking. I had hoped she wouldn't figure it out this fast. I'd given Marla a head start. Hell, I thought we'd have a few hours before anything tipped off. But by the time Aaron started calling Marla's house, everything was already in motion. I could picture her in her car, frantically driving, checking her parents' place, then realizing no one was there. I pushed the pedal harder, the engine roaring as I steered south. The girls were still quiet in the back, exhausted from the early morning, and I didn't blame them. They deserved a vacation from all this chaos. I'd give them that. But then came a message from Aaron. "I'm here. Where are the kids?" The fear in her words was something I hadn't expected. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of something, but it wasn't regret. I grabbed the phone again. My finger hovered over the keyboard, but before I could type, I felt the cold edge of reality slice through me. I couldn't let her back in. I couldn't let her manipulate me again. The phone buzzed one last time. This one was different. It was a call, the only one I hadn't blocked yet. Pick up, I told myself. Let her know how this ends. With a deep breath, I hit the green button and pressed the phone to my ear. Erin. What the hell is this, Ethan? She spat out, the panic in her voice cutting through. What the hell is going on? Where are the kids? Her words came fast, and I could hear the desperation building. I'm not telling you, I said flatly, my voice steady. You don't get to have them. Not anymore. Don't do this, she pleaded. You think this is going to fix things? You think it's going to make me want you back? That's not what this is about. I just want them. Yeah, I said, exhaling sharply. That's all you want. The kids, the house, the money, but you never wanted me. That's not, she started to argue, but I cut her off. You never loved me, Erin. You haven't loved me for years. I could feel the anger creeping in, but I shoved it back down. I couldn't let it take over. Not now. Not when I was so close to freedom. Her voice cracked. You think I didn't try to make it work? You think I didn't love you? You're making a mistake. I closed my eyes for a moment. Number? I'm not making a mistake. You made the choice when you ran off with Kyle. You sold me out, Erin, and I'm done trying to save something that was never real. Please, Ethan. She was almost sobbing now. Please don't do this. I'm trying to get us back to how it was before. We can fix this. Please just bring them home. You don't get it, do you? I said, the words coming out like a low growl. This isn't about us anymore. This is about the kids. This is about me doing the right thing for them, because you won't. There was a silence on the other end, her breath shallow and uneven. Then she spoke, her voice almost a whisper. Where are you? Tell me where you are. I'll come. We can work this out. You'll never see them again, I said, finally, my voice final. They're mine now, and I'm not bringing them back to you. Not now. Not ever. Her breath hitched, then came the pleading again, soft and desperate. Ethan, please. I shook my head. Number. I'm not interested in fighting for someone who sold me out. You can search all you want, but the girls have new names, new papers. There's nothing you can do. I heard the sound of her crying through the line, but I didn't let it sway me. I'd made my choice. Goodbye, Erin, I said, and I hung up. The phone dropped onto the seat beside me, and I didn't look back. I drove toward the border. I could feel the weight lifting from my chest as I put miles between myself and everything that had been holding me down. And for the first time in years, I was free. I drove on, the engines hummed steady, but inside me, it was chaos. My phone buzzed again and again until I finally picked up after the fourth call. Erin's voice came through, frantic and sharp. Where the hell are you, Ethan? Where are the kids? I need to know. I clenched the steering wheel tighter, the pain from earlier still raw, but now it was just fuel. You're never seeing them again. What? Her voice cracked, disbelief thick in the air. What are you talking about? You can't just... Yeah, I can. I already did. My voice was cold, unyielding. They're with me, and you're not getting them back. Not now, not ever. There was a long pause on the other end. I knew she was trying to process what I just said, but I wasn't about to let her twist this around. Please, Ethan, just tell me where you are. We can fix this. No, Erin. I cut her off before she could pull me back in. You don't get to fix this. You sold me out. You sold us out. And you can keep trying to act like you're the victim, but that's not how this works anymore. There was a tremor in her voice now, but I didn't care. Please, just listen. I was just trying to get you to fight for me, Ethan. I wanted to see if... Stop. My voice cracked just a bit, but I swallowed it. Don't try to justify what you did. You went with him, and you're still acting like you can pull me back in, but it's over. It's done. Her words came fast now, like she was gasping for air. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I thought maybe if I just did this, it would wake you up. I didn't want to. You didn't want to what? I asked, my patience thin. You didn't want to what, Erin? You didn't want to see me walk away? You didn't want to push me to the point where I had no choice but to take the kids and leave. You've been making all the moves, and now it's my turn. I kept my eyes on the road, the world a blur around me. You can look for them, Erin. You can search all you want, But they've got new names, new papers, and no legal tie to you anymore. I paused, my stomach tightening. You'll never find us. I'll find you. I'll get them back, she spat. I could hear the desperation in her voice, and for a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. Go ahead, keep looking, but you'll never get to them. I'm not interested in fighting for someone who sold me out. I said it without hesitation, every word like a hammer falling. There was a long silence. I could practically hear her world shattering on the other end of the line. I didn't wait for her to say anything more. I hung up, tossed the phone into the river just off the side of the highway, and didn't even look back. The weight in my chest didn't go away, but I knew I was doing the right thing. For once, I was doing something for me, for the girls. I wasn't going back. I looked ahead, straight into the future. The border was getting closer. Freedom.